My name is Diana. Today, I will tell you a story that you've probably never heard before. It all started when I found that old journal. One Sunday morning, while shopping at an antique store, it came into my hands. With its yellowed pages and leather cover, it almost seemed to be calling out to me. There was something in that book that whispered, "Read me." At that moment, I didn't know my life would never be the same again. I came home and started examining the journal. It was very old, as was evident from its pages and overall appearance. I began reading. The entries were about the daily routines of a girl, mostly routines from ancient times. I found these events fascinating, so I finished it quickly. When I reached the end, I noticed the last few pages were blank. It seemed like the girl hadn't had the time to fill them out. Then, I noticed a small writing in the top corner of the pages. Since the pages were slightly darkened, it wasn't easy to spot at first. But when I looked carefully, I saw that the dates for tomorrow and the next 6 days were written on the pages in order. Isn't that an interesting coincidence? But I didn't think much of it. That night, I decided that I would fill out these blank pages starting tomorrow. Then I peacefully went to bed. That was my last peaceful night. How could I have known? The next day, I opened the journal to write the first entry. I swear, this page was blank just yesterday. But now, there was something written. Today, a black crow followed you. Wherever you went, I saw it. Was it trying to tell me something? Was it trying to scare me? I don't know, but I felt uneasy. I convinced myself, it was just a crow. Then I looked at the other blank pages. They were still empty. I couldn't have lost my mind, right? Later, I went outside. I had things to do, just like everyone else. That day, while walking around the city, a crow really did start following me. No matter where I went, it appeared somewhere, watching me. It followed me all the way home. Once I got home, I looked out the window. Was it still there? On the roof across the street, it sat, staring at me without blinking. It was the first time in a long time I felt this scared. That night, I couldn't sleep. The next day, I eagerly picked up the journal again. On the second page, there was now something written. At exactly 3 a.m. tonight, you will see a different face in your room's mirror. After reading it, I told myself, I need to get rid of this cursed thing. Mirrors have always been a little unsettling for me. If I saw something strange in it, I'd never be able to look into a mirror again. I took the book and threw it into the trash outside the building. I felt a little relieved. I kept scolding myself for finding it. I decided to forget everything and move on. I started a movie and fell asleep in front of the screen. At some point during the night, I thought I heard a scream. I woke up with a jolt, feeling pain on my face. I didn't understand what was happening. Was I still sleepy? I approached the mirror and tried to figure out what was wrong with my face, but I had forgotten about the cursed journal. Instead of my own face, a pale, gray-eyed face was staring back at me. It seemed to have no soul or spirit. I screamed and backed away, and that's when the journal came to my mind. I rubbed my eyes, wondering if it was just a result of sleep, but when I looked again, the face in the mirror had turned back to my own. I looked at the clock, and as you might have guessed, it was 3 a.m. I began crying in fear, not knowing what to do. I ran to my bed, wanting to hide under the covers like I used to do as a child. Just as I was about to pull the blanket over my head, I saw the journal right next to me. On the third day, things took a turn for the worse. I didn't even touch the journal. But it opened by itself, and a voice from the journal said, "Today, I received some bad news. Someone I loved very much would no longer be in my life. I don't know how to cope with this feeling." Then the voice stopped. I remember not thinking much about the voice at that moment, because whatever was written in the journal had happened before. And now, I was about to lose someone close to me. I only had one relative left. I couldn't lose her too. While I was lost in thought, I got a phone call from my mom's friend. My mom had been hospitalized. She lived 8 hours away. I was devastated, not knowing what to do. I went to my mom's house. I had to be there for the funeral. My mom's friends were arranging everything. I was only occupied with my grief. I went to my mom's room, hoping to find some comfort in her things. She had a small chest where she kept her personal belongings. I had always been curious about it, but she never let me open it. Today, I opened it, and there, lying inside, was the journal. Had my mom found the cursed journal too? I thought, but this couldn't be a coincidence, could it? I quickly opened the journal, needing to be sure. When I opened it, I realized it was the fourth day. The moment I opened it, the fourth day's entry appeared, and the walls around me began to speak. The figures in the mirror were talking to me. "Join us," they said. I didn't even understand what it meant. As I stood up to leave the room, I started hearing whispers from the walls. My mom had a large mirror in her room. A silhouette appeared in the mirror, reaching out towards me. I screamed and fainted right where I stood. My mom's friend heard my scream and found me lying on the floor. By the fifth day, I was already terrified. I decided to go see the priest. He was the only one who could help me. I wrapped the book tightly in something to keep it from opening. It couldn't open this time. But no matter how hard I tried, it was inevitable that it would open. As I walked, a cyclist bumped into me, and the book flew from my hands. Even though I hadn't opened it, the journal was still trying to reach me. "Today, you will see the true face of those who are watching you. Are you ready?" The voice sent a chill down my spine, and the meaning of the words unsettled me. I looked up, and the cyclist was apologizing, but his face resembled that of a pig. I screamed and jumped back. The man didn't know what to do and quickly ran away. So, this was what it meant. Without looking up or glancing at anyone, I decided to walk on, heading straight for the church. I found the priest, who was praying alone. When I approached, I was finally able to lift my head. His face seemed normal. Maybe the curse had passed. I told him I wanted to speak with him. He welcomed me kindly, and we went out to the garden. I explained everything that had happened. I was afraid he might call me crazy, but at that point, I didn't really care anymore. After listening attentively, he said he would investigate and let me know as soon as possible. He told me, "If you want, you can leave the journal here." I said, "Even if I leave it, it will find me anyway." "You're right," he said. After a moment of thought, he added, "Stay in our guest house tonight. You can be close, and we can try to figure something out together." My mom's funeral hadn't taken place yet, but the priest promised to take care of that too. Honestly, I had no choice. I accepted. He led me to the nuns, and when I saw their faces, I knew the curse was still continuing. I kept my head down and didn't look at anyone as I entered the room. I felt uneasy, but I kept to myself, because of where I was staying. The next day, I opened the journal directly. There were only 2 pages left, and I thought, whatever happens, happens now. This has been too much. Today, I confronted my own darkness. That was all. There was nothing else. After a while, I met with the priest. He asked what was written in the journal. I told him. He asked if anything had changed. I said no. Everything was normal. In fact, everything felt too normal. So much so that I started searching for something dark. But I couldn't find anything. By the end of the day, I began to feel uneasy. I thought to myself, what am I even living for? I had no purpose in life. I only ate, drank, and traveled. One day, I'll die, and no one will even remember me. Not even my friends, who haven't called or checked on me for a week. I thought about how alone I was, how pathetic I was. It almost consumed me. I went to the priest. He was still in the library, doing research. He tried to comfort me, but these thoughts had already taken root inside me. It was late at night. I left the priest's side to go sleep. When the final day arrived, the only words written in the journal were 2, "I'm ready to die now." I ran to the priest's side. We met on the stairs as he was coming towards me. A look of joy was on his face. It seemed he had found the solution. He had realized something had gone wrong because of me, and he asked me what the journal had written. I told him. "It doesn't matter what's written," he said. "Today, this matter is over," he added. Then we went out into the garden together. He had dug a hole, and a fire was burning in it. He held a piece of leather cloth. He took the journal, and although something was written on the leather cloth, I couldn't see what it said. Then he wrapped the journal tightly in the leather cloth. With a copper thread, he wrapped it 7 times and tied it before throwing it into the fire. The flames suddenly rose. It was as if the journal was struggling not to burn, but it couldn't resist any longer and was reduced to ash within minutes. The priest then filled the hole with dirt. In that way, that cursed journal was gone from my life. But knowing that there are people out there with such lives, knowing that such things are possible, still keeps me awake at night,